You're hanging out with the Morning Vybez people, Kwambox and Mbunde. And as we promised you in this hour, we've got a very special group of guests who are going to be talking to us on this segment we call On My Grind.
And you know, as an MVP, we focus on you out there. We have to make sure that you improve yourself as an entrepreneur, even as an employee. You have to improve yourself. So as each and every day as you're going to work, you're getting better and better at your grind.
Do you remember we spoke about some stats earlier this week? Was it earlier this week or last week? It was, I think it was last week.
Okay.
About apparently Kenya tops the list of countries of people who love upskilling and reskilling. Kenyans really want to improve themselves.
Yes.
And then you find, interestingly, in first world countries or where things are good, guys are like, education for who? For what? Skill where? Manye. The country is paying everything. Why do I need it? And so it's important for you as an MVP, especially one who's on your grind, to listen to this next conversation. There's 3 individuals are part of something. They saw something that works and they're like, how do we bring this to Kenya? Ladies and gent, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourselves.
Ladies first.
My name is Natalie Mutunga. I'm part of the TEDxPARKLANds team.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Gabriella. I am the co-organizer and marketing lead for TEDxPARKLANDS.
Hi, my name is Steven Mogaka. I am the tech lead for TEDxPARKLANDS.
All right. So TEDx, what is TEDx? I know TED, the international space where people talk about, what's going on. What is TEDx?
So TEDx is actually a subsidiary of TED. So the way TED works, like you mentioned, it's an international organization. And TED really believes in the idea of people coming together and having meaningful conversations and sharing ideas that will inspire change, influence people in one way or the other. And the whole idea is around sharing meaningful conversations, sharing ideas, sparking a different way of thinking. So what TED realized is that they could have an opportunity to have even a greater global impact. And so what they did is they allowed individuals to apply for licenses. So when you apply for a license, it means you're able to run a TED-like event in your local community. It could be your city, a school, a university, and that's how TEDx came about. So the X there means it's independently organized. So you apply for a license. Once you're vetted and approved, then you can run TED-like events. And the reason why when you go on YouTube and you search for any TED Talks or TEDx Talks, they look very similar.
Yeah.
And that's because TED has created some kind of standard where, everybody who applies and puts together a TEDx event follows particular guidelines just for the sake of maintaining quality.
Yeah.
And it's just an aspect of quality control for their brand. And that's how TEDxPARKLANDS came about. So
Why
our friend...
Parklands?
Because TED will give you a license for a particular
Region.
Exactly. So they gave us options of places in Nairobi that hadn't yet been taken. So you will find that actually we are not the only TEDx organizers in the country. You'll find TEDx Lavington Women, TEDx Buruburu. There are several.
Yeah.
So each and every one of them has a different set of organizers.
All right.
So we just happen to be the ones that are behind TEDxPARKLANDS.
Mogaka.
Yeah.
TEDxPARKLANDS. How did you get involved?
Well, the entire team works, or rather study together in JKUAT. So the lead organizer and the co-organizer approached us to form a team to run the event.
When you heard you were about to be part of the TEDx team, were you excited?
Very.
Why?
Very. It's a chance for me personally to do my part in making a difference for the youth, especially.
What difference?
Well, you see, the speakers that come on board really share ideas that are hard to find on a global stage. It's a very local idea that has the chance to impact way more people than we could as individuals.
I'm going to ask about, in terms of innovation, do we have people? Because, we there's a lot of places, not even just TEDx. Now there's everyone is like, yo, come here, we talk, let's talk about this. And there's different spaces where people are talking about stuff. But do you have a criteria for the speakers so that they're impactful? Or is there a guideline of what the speakers should be about?
Yes, so we have speaker categories that we found are based on, some of them are based on the SDGs, and others we just found are necessary for what's happening within the country. So some of them, I'll just give a few examples. There's fashion, arts, media, and entertainment to cater for creatives. There's political governance and sustainability, just to touch on that aspect, and a couple of other categories. And how we bring the speakers on board is we have a call for nominations, because TED is not supposed to be just approaching people who are known, but giving anyone who has a story worth telling a platform to tell it. So we do a call for nominations on our social media, on LinkedIn, and then people bring their nominations. We go through the list and we come up with a few nominations. We approach the speakers, and if they do agree to come on board, then that's just how we go through the process with them.
In terms of now the interviews and the presentations, could you tell us a sample of the guys who've come in the past, so at least my listeners wajue, by the way, so and so ukujanga vitu kama hizi, because they don't know who to expect, let's say, for the next one.
Well, this being our third event we are running, we've hosted a good number of people. So one of them, Bright Gameli, we've hosted over 25. We've hosted Shimani, Valentino. We've hosted, who am I missing? Isaac Hunja. We've hosted Patricia Nyaundi. And when you look at the different even age in terms of demographics that we host, it's a mix of both very young people and guys who are very well known, a bit older, very prolific as well. Just like Natalie mentioned, we try to offer equal opportunities to anyone who we feel has a great idea to share. And if I could touch a bit on who to expect for this one.
We're going to come to that.
All right.
But I just want to, of course, take a break here as we listen to some music. Remember, you are live on Vibes Radio. We are the Morning Vybez people, and we're talking about TEDx right here on My Grind. What I want to ask you as a listener, you've heard of TEDx. They say they have people from all across the nation. If you've got a crazy story or a dope story that you want to share that people should hear, this is the platform for you. If you were to nominate someone, who would it be? Use hashtag VibesMVP.
Vibes Radio, we rule the nation in this generation.
And it is the pride and joy of Jamaica, Sean Paul, who was this year in October awarded the National Honor in Jamaica for his achievements in taking Jamaican music to the world. Of course he has.
Jamaa arudi Kenya, Kwambox.
Arudi Kenya?
Kwa nini? Unakumbuka tulimwibia simu.
Oh my God. But Wakenya ni wa serious. Unakumbuka designer last year nilikuwa na MC gingine huko. Niko tu kwa stage nimeintroduce designer nini designer ameingia kwa show. Panda. Tene panda. Panda. Kumbe akaenda kupandilia watu kwa audience. Wewe nakwambia kuna mtu alikuwa anapanda mifuko. Mzee akasema stop the music. Kiatu moja ilikuwa imeenda. Mtu ameiba sneaker ya designer,
lakini kwa
na ilikuwa designer.
Imagine kuiba njumu moja then unaenda toi unauliza by the way mko na njumu kama hii nyingine then unanunua right.
Unajua watu kukwambia hii kitu ni fiti design hii. Unauliza hiyo nyingine iko wapi? Si ndio hii design. Hii design ndio noma. As in it's not about the shoe. And on top of that, guess stole his phone. As in say I'll interrupt concert for close to 10 or 15 minutes. Paka hapo niko tu yeye. Yani ndio nikipoa tu entertained.
Kwambox, mimi naomba Chris Martin akikam tu hivi tumpitisha hivi dandora kidogo then aingie tu.
Ndio ajue ya kushikilia vitu.
Maze.
Lazima uko na ile duffel bag iko hapa kwa kifua na iko imeshikana na shingo.
Ama unaingiza simu kwa boxer.
Ama unavaa tu Sahara. Ndio mtu akiona Sahara anasema
gote your story.
Uko wax mzee. Uko wax. 29 minutes past 9 a.m. Good morning. Where are you listening to us from? Of course, use hashtag VibesMVP. Now, before we took the break, I asked you if you could nominate someone to be a speaker at TEDxPARKLANds, who would it be? Because their criteria is... What's the criteria for a speaker?
Well,
what are you looking for?
If you have an idea, anyone who has an idea is welcome to come on stage.
Any idea?
Any idea.
So namka tu we.
Umesikia ideas za umse? So are you looking I remember you mentioned in the field of fashion, in different fields there's different categories.
Yes.
What are the categories?
Okay, so all the categories, there's environmental conservation and sustainability. There's, as I mentioned, fashion, arts, media, and entertainment. There's
art and design, technology. We also feature corporate sensation, so people we feel are making very significant strides in the corporate space. We feature gender equality, advocacy, human rights, politics and government, and I think those are the main categories.
Yeah.
But like Steve mentioned earlier, it really depends. So the whole idea behind us coming up with those categories is to make sure that we are not overpopulating the stage with only one set or like one industry. Only one industry is taken care of.
Yeah.
It's to consider all the spaces that we can possibly have.
What about the informal sector? I know we're speaking to people right now. There's a person who's probably come up with an ingenious way of doing mjengo differently. There's a Mama Mboga who's decided to take in kids and is feeding them through her food stand. Does she stand a chance to come talk and TEDx?
Yes, absolutely. She does, because that's the aspect where we look at unconventional thinkers and also innovation and industry and innovation, which is not limited to complicated technologies. It could be something as simple as, like you mentioned, a feeding program. And the whole thing to consider about TED is that there needs to be an idea. There needs to be something that you so strongly believe in that you want to advocate for and share with the world. So beyond your own personal story, it's what are you moving anybody else in the country, in Nairobi, in the world to do about that thing. If it's about a feeding program, for example, we should not be looking at feeding programs as a daunting task or as some complicated mechanic that only certain people can do, people who have numbers and masses. It just could be something as simple as invite a person who's just outside of your house and is looking for something to eat. Invite the guy who's just walking in the street. So there are very many ways that we look at simplifying ideas also. So like the way Steve mentioned, it doesn't matter where it comes from, but we have to come up with some kind of standard just to make sure we are not having too much of one aspect on the same stage.
Steve, if there's a lot of people who've got amazing things they want to speak about, but they don't know how to speak. Do you do any training for the speakers?
That's actually the part of the beauty of TEDxPARKLANds, is that more than half the people that come on stage are not public speakers outright. So over our period of about 8 weeks, we train them on how to speak, how to bring the idea to life in such a manner that generations from now will still be listening to the idea and it will still make sense.
It will still make sense. And in a situation where of course a lot of people are showing up for this event, what would you say has been the highlights of TEDx so far in terms of impact?
Well, one is getting the conversations going around TEDx talks in the country. When we came on board, it was still a very strange idea to most people. They were surprised that we have TEDx talks locally. But over time now, we are seeing a reach of about 10,000 plus youth asking actively, can I come on board? Can I participate in TEDx? Can I attend an event? So that has been one great success for us.
All right, Brian, would you nominate yourself to speak at TED?
I've actually participated once for TEDx Moi University.
Oh, really?
Yes, actually 2 years ago. Yes, and it was scary because mimi ni mshy.
Did they when you shy?
Hakuniambia kitu. Aniambia Buda, leo unaongea juu ya digital na venye huko anga big week kule KOT. So mimi nimeenda huko na ma tweets zangu. Guy, kuna watu wamekuja na ma presentation hapo na ma pointers hivi. Nimekuja hapo na ma tweets zangu.
Wow. So I asked, who would you nominate if you had the chance? Now that you've heard that TEDx, of course, is always looking for speakers who've got great ideas.
I'll nominate you.
You nominate me?
Yeah.
For real?
Okay. Saa zingine unaongeanga then unaanga udema amedunga point maze.
Mi kwa sababu nimekuanga tu yani niko na vidole virefu za kudunga point. Ronnie Regan amesema he would nominate himself. Who else I can see? Chris Apa amesema he would also nominate himself. So there's a lot of people who are in that space that want to speak and they, catalyze each other with great conversation. What about the audience? Who are you targeting as the audience?
So for us, it's just like Steve mentioned about, putting the speakers together and taking them through training. So the next most important step for us is to make sure that we have the right people in the audience. So we've generally found ourselves attracting guys who are very keen, like you mentioned earlier, upskilling, personal development, career development, networking. So naturally, that's the kind of person that we want to have in the room. A majority of our audience is usually between the ages of 23 and 35, 36, and that's a majority of the youth. So just like Steve mentioned, because again, we are also really young people who are putting this together, and there's so much even for us to learn. We learn a lot through our speakers, and we would want the same for young people as well. So we want people who are keen on learning, keen on creating some kind of impact and change. One of the things that Steve mentioned earlier when you asked about the successes is one thing I've seen is people are always willing to help. You know, sometimes we get really caught up in the rat race where we tend to imagine and assume that nothing good can come from a space where people are just talking and sharing conversation. But there's so much that comes from it, from the partners we've worked with, to guys who are constantly asking, how can I volunteer with the team? To people who are just willing to offer their services and offer whatever resources they have for the sake of growing a generation that's keen on creating impact in one way or the other. So we want to work with such people, and our partners as well also believe in what we do because they also understand that like we mentioned earlier, so we work independently, meaning we don't really get any kind of resource support from TED. And even meeting with organizations, individuals, corporations that are willing to understand where we stand and can see what it is that we want to put together, that for us has been, you know, what we focus on when we think around what you want within the audience and what kind of partners you want to work with as well.
You know, just as we wrap this up, what thing has a speaker said that stood out for you? I'm going to start with Mogaka here.
What stood out for me was from Patricia Nyaundi on our last event, where she was asking whether you are a passenger without a voice. So basically, are you speaking out against the social ills? Are you just a bystander? Are you just allowing the government to run through without thinking about the impact the decisions have on people?
Oh, okay. What stood out for you?
Wow, there have been many, but let me pick one from Mugambi Ndhiga,
who's a film director.
Yes. And his talk really focused on the significance and the power behind each and every one of our voices. That each of us has the opportunity to share something. Each of us has a story that we can build and own. And through that, express oneself and impact other people as well.
What stood out for you?
I think then I would pick Over 25. That talk was about the evolution of friendship, and the lessons that I learned from it have really helped even within the team, because they were talking about how friendship and business can work together and trying to mitigate some difficult conversations and situations. And it's helped us work as a team because we were friends before we came together to put this TEDxPARKLANds on the map.
So I'm definitely going to come through for your next event, which is on which date?
7th December.
Okay.
10 to 5 p.m. at Anderson Center, Upper Hill.
Hey, do you know what's happening on 7th December?
After that.
Yes,
after that.
We are going for, right after that.
We are carrying one another.
When we come back, Chris Martin here.